everyone, it's Alice, and today I have a TBR of translated books to share with you. And all of these books are books that I would like to get to soon, maybe this year. I think I have too many for 1 year, but I can try. I don't really have any specific reading goals or anything around reading translated books. I just always want a good portion of my reading to be translated because I really like reading translated books. It's really not more complicated than that. And doing these kinds of TBRs help remind me that I have all of these books and that I want to read them. So I'm hoping that doing this will help me get to quite a lot of these over the next coming months. I do also sneakily have a couple of new books that I haven't even hauled yet because I went to a bookshop yesterday and I found some gems. So I think we'll do those at the end, and we'll start with all of the ones that I've had for a while, and I'm just gonna go through these as they appear in my pile. Firstly, we have a book that I think I mentioned in a recent TBR, like my top fiction books that I want to get to this year. I'm pretty sure it was there. It's Forgotten on Sunday by Valérie Perrin, and I just want to read this because I read Fresh Water for Flowers last year, and it was like a new all-time favorite book. I feel like this could be a favorite author, but I think I need to read some more from her and not just that one book. And so, yeah, I really want to read this just because I want to read something else by her. I kind of want to read all of her books. I think this book was this author's debut, and it tells the story of this 21-year-old woman who works in a retirement home. And in that retirement home, there's this other woman who is almost 100, I think. And the story is about these two women becoming friends and slowly revealing their stories to each other, and I would be interested in that even if it wasn't written by this author, so I feel like this is gonna be great. Secondly, we have Portrait of an Unknown Lady by María Gainza, and this is translated from Spanish. I forgot to say that the previous book is translated from French, by the way, but this one is translated from Spanish, and it tells the story of this person who's trying to find this master forger in Buenos Aires. And this forger, like, no one knows who this person is, but it's rumored to be a woman, and there's something about this art forger having something to do with a community of artists that gather at this strange hotel every night or something. I think our main character takes on the role as a sort of detective to try to figure all of this out, and it seems like this person uses some interesting methods to find out information, which sounds interesting. I love books that deal with like art and things like that, so I think that could be a really interesting part of this. And this just looks a little weird, but also really interesting. There are also some illustrations in this. I maybe knew that when I got this book, but I'd forgotten, but that's also really cool. Now we have another book that sounds like it's kind of on the weird side of things. It's 4x4 by Sara Mesa. And this I also think is translated from Spanish. It actually doesn't say in here, but I feel like I read that somewhere when I got this book. And it's about this college that wealthy people send their kids to sort of, I think, send them to safety away from like the chaos that is erupting in the cities. And it seems like this school is quite mysterious, and there's a lot of weird stuff going on. There are a lot of mysteries, and there's something about a disappearance. It very much seems like there's something darker lurking beneath the surface of this school, and I love that. I love that in books. I love an academic setting, and I just feel like this is gonna be kind of dark and a little weird, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. I am also curious as to what's going on in the rest of the world that makes these people send their kids to the school because it's safer, because that implies that the outside world is not safe. And I don't know if we get to read about it, but it sounds very intriguing. Keeping on the weird books train, we have Life Ceremony by Sayaka Murata. And if you've ever read anything from this author, you'll know that most of her books are on the weirder, darker side, which I know some people don't like, but I really, really like. This is actually a short story collection, and I don't really know what to expect from this because it's always hard to summarize short story collections, but I'm just guessing it's gonna be strange and weird, maybe a little, like, disgusting. I don't quite know. I have heard a little bit about some of the stories in here and they sound quite disturbing. This is translated from Japanese and yeah, I'm excited to read it. A little nervous, but excited. I also feel like this cover is just, I don't know, there's something about eyeballs that is just very unsettling. On to something that seems a little bit more wholesome, maybe. We have Welcome to the Hyunam-Dong Bookshop by Hwang Bo-Reum, and this is one of those books that follows a woman who seems to have everything. She seems to have the perfect life in Seoul. She's married, she has a great career, but she's very unsatisfied. So she decides to leave her life behind and moved to this like residential neighborhood, I think, outside of the city, and she decides to open up a bookshop. I feel like we have a lot of these kinds of books floating around, but I really like them, so I'm excited to read this. I feel like I kind of can't get enough of them. This is translated from Korean, and yeah, I'm just really excited to read it. I also really like this cover, this like bookshop in the evening vibes is doing a lot for me, and I kind of hope the vibe of the book is gonna be like the cover. Then we have this little slip of a thing. This is Weasels in the Attic by Hiroko Oyamada, and I just got this book because I would like to read something from this author. I've seen several of this author's books around, and they all seem interesting, and I just want to give something a go. And this is the shortest one that I found, so I thought I would start with this. I think this has three interconnected stories where I think we meet the same characters but in different parts of their lives or something. That's all I really know. I haven't really looked into it more than that. And I kind of don't want to because it's so short that I feel like I can just read it and see for myself. I really don't know what to expect, but yeah, it'll be interesting. I really like this cover as well. It's very cute. Then we're back to books translated from Spanish. We have When I Sing Mountains Dance by Irene Solà, and I remember I saw some review for this that was amazing, and that's why I got it, but now I can't remember anything that review said, but oh well, I'm sure it'll be great. This starts off with this farmer who lives in like a village or something high in the Pyrenees, and he fashions himself a poet, and then I think he gets struck down by lightning. And it says something about the ghosts of these 17th century witches end up stealing the mushrooms that he has just harvested. I don't know what's going on, but that sounds great. I do think that the story focuses mainly on the aftermath of this death, though, and how it affects his family. I am intrigued by the ghosts as well. I don't know how prevalent they are in this or if they just make a quick appearance, but it sounds very interesting. And I'm just gonna go into this and see what I find. I also think the setting of this sounds really good, so I'm excited to read about that as well. Next, we have a horror book actually. It's Jawbone by Monica Ojeda. And this is also translated from Spanish, and it's about these two friends who are so close that they're almost sisters, and they attend the same school. And there's something about one of the girls leading a group of girls in these like rituals that become more and more dangerous, which sounds strange. And then I think one of the friends ends up getting kidnapped by their teacher or something. It sounds a little complicated, but also very interesting and kind of dark. And I don't really know what to expect going into this. Like, I don't know how spooky or how scary it's gonna get, but I'm excited to see. I've heard a lot of good things about this book, so hopefully I will like it. Then we have a Japanese translated book that I think I've mentioned that I want to read like 10 times. Still haven't read it. It's The Tattoo Murder by Akimitsu Takagi. And this is set in the 1940s, and it's about this woman with a full body tattoo that gets murdered, and her lover teams up with this detective to try to figure out what happened to her. The story sounds kind of brutal, like the murder and everything, but I have been recommended this a couple of times, so I'm gonna give it a go. I also do feel like I am used to reading Nordic noir, like those kinds of mystery thriller books, and a lot of them are really brutal, and so I feel like I don't know if I'm desensitized, but maybe a little bit. I started reading those kinds of books when I was way too young. Like, I see some of the books that I was reading when I was like 11, 12, and I think, I was a little too young to read those. So It takes a lot to shock me, but I have sort of been warned that it is a little brutal, this one. The next one is also translated from Japanese. It's There's No Such Thing as an Easy Job by Kikuko Tsumura. And this one I've also had for a while, and it's apparently like a sort of mix between Convenience Store Woman and My Year of Rest and Relaxation, which I think could be interesting. I loved Convenience Store Woman. I wasn't as impressed by My Year of Rest and Relaxation, but I think that in combination with each other could be really interesting. It tells the story of a young woman who walks into an employment agency and asks for a job where she doesn't have to do anything, where she doesn't have to write or read or really do a lot of thinking. And I think she ends up getting sent out on several jobs, like it mentions several jobs in the beginning here. And I know that one of them is like a surveillance job where she watches this author who I think is suspected of doing something shady. That's all I really know about this book. I have heard kind of mixed things about it, and it seems like one of those books where not a lot happens, but I really like those kinds of books sometimes, so I feel like I'm really gonna like it. Next, we have these two little classics that come in these beautiful editions. The first one is Cosmicomics by Italo Calvino. I got this book without really looking into it at all because I've read some other books by this author and I've really liked them. This is translated from Italian, and I think this contains some short stories. I don't know what they're about. I feel like I don't really even need to know. I just want to go into it and see what I find. I've read some other short stories by this author, and I really like them. They're kind of weird, but I really like them. The other one is also translated from French. This is Bonjour, Tristesse, and I remember seeing this book like around a couple of years ago, and I was always interested in it, and eventually I got a copy of it, but I haven't read it yet. And this book apparently shocked society when it came out in the 50s, and I always love reading books like that. It tells the story of this girl who lives this carefree life with her widowed father. They seem to travel around a lot, and the father has a lot of mistresses, but it's all fine and they're all free and everything is great. And then everything changes when the father decides to marry this woman, and I guess that has some terrible consequences. It sounds interesting. It's also quite short, so it should be a pretty quick read. And yeah, I can't remember what people thought about this book, if it was like one of those books that a lot of people liked, but hopefully I will like it. Then at the end, like I mentioned, I have two books that I just bought. Haven't even hauled these yet, but I just wanted to include them because I'm super excited about them. The first one is The Rainfall Market by Yeong-Gwang, and I'm not gonna lie, I saw this cover and I immediately went and picked it up because I was like, yes, this looks like a vibe. It looks a little cozy, a little magical, and I just immediately wanted to read it. It says that there's something about this abandoned house in this book where people can send letters detailing their misfortunes, and if they're very, very lucky, I guess the house or something will give them a ticket to this place called the Rainfall Market, where you can basically find a better life for yourself. Like, you can find anything you want in this magical market. There's also something about a cat companion in this place, and I just think it sounds magical. This is translated from Korean, and I mean, look at this. It just looks amazing. Lastly, we have another great cover. It's The Full Moon Coffee Shop by Mai Mochizuki, which is translated from Japanese, and when I saw the title of this, I just immediately wanted to read it, and there's cats in it, and that's all it really took for me. It's about a mysterious coffee shop in Kyoto, I think, where you can only get invited there if you're nice to cats when you're out and about. And this coffee shop is run by cats who can talk, and they can like offer you wisdom and read your charts. I don't know what is going on in this place, but I would like to go. That was the last book, though, in my stack of translated books. I'm sure I have more on my shelves that I just forgot to include, but oh well. Now, I would love to know if you have any translated books on your TBR. And also, actually, I would like to ask for some recommendations if you have any, specifically books translated from French. I feel like I've had really good luck reading French books, or books translated from French. I don't know if I'm just basing that on Fresh Water for Flowers. I loved that book so much, so I feel like that just works for me. Although I guess I also read I Who Have Never Known Men last year, and that was one of my favorites, and I think that was translated from French. Anyways, if anyone has any recommendations for French books in translation, I would love to know. Doesn't really matter what they're about. I would just like to read some more of them. That was kind of it for today, though. As always, thank you very much for hanging out with me today, and I will see you soon. Bye!